Awesome. Chad, good seeing you. Thanks for stopping in. We're also live streaming on YouTube and LinkedIn. So hello to everyone out there or people who will be listening to it in the future. So we're going old school. We had a trend where we were having some guests, and that was great, but I was missing my conversations with Devin. I needed some more Devin time in my life. And by popular demand, we got Devin back. It is also called the Agentic Future with Devin Kearns, which we haven't changed that name. So you might as well show up once in a while as a guest. So Devin, this session that we're talking about kind of goes really nicely, it goes very nicely with a Medium article I just wrote, which people just check it out on LinkedIn or my Medium, which talked about what have we seen in H1 2025. My newsletter coming out on this Tuesday, and again, those links are in my LinkedIn, is all about what to expect or what trends we're seeing for H2 2025, and then what to expect in 2026. And I make some bold predictions around that. But you have no idea what I wrote, and that's great. I can't wait to hear what you wrote so that I could edit my newsletter quickly before it comes out on Tuesday so I get it all right. So let's just start out with H1 2025. Custom AI Studio, I can just say as being the CRO, it's been a really, really great H1. I think it's exceeded definitely my expectations, and I would assume yours and I just about everyone at the company. And I'm really happy with everything we're doing. What are you most proud of from H1 2025? Is it the Agentic OS or something else?
I think it's the team really. Like, I think we put together a pretty solid team. Like with you at the beginning of that year or this year, Nick getting elevated, Andrew coming on full time, and then a lot of the support guys that like Alan, Pratik K has like become an all-star, like people are trying to steal him from us. So like we put together some folks that I like a lot, and like there's a lot of chemistry. So that's number one. Number two, like, I don't know. I think we were 9 out of 10. But I think things just take a little bit longer than expected. Like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I want it done in 3 months, but it doesn't get done in 3 months. But because we're trying to hustle and get it done in 3 months, we get a lot done when you look back. So as long as we stay on that kind of cadence and have that sense of urgency, I think we'll be okay. One of the things in H1 is we started the year, I think it was very clear at the beginning of the year that we personally internally realized we need to start building systems as opposed to just like automations. And that seemed to be a trend amongst some of the other guys in the space who typically do automations, like Cole Medine, even Ben AI was talking about this a little bit. And that's kind of been like the main North Stars. Like, how do we build a more holistic system as opposed to just kind of one-off automations where you need to build it from scratch or integrate with a certain piece of the stack, like individually. And it's from that kind of like little nugget where all of the rest kind of fell into place, which was like Agentic OS and context-oriented prompting, meta prompting, object-oriented prompting, agentic databases, and all of the stuff kind of fell into place after that. So yeah, I like it. I just want to move faster. Like that's the only rub that I have. But you can't do. There are some things you just can't move fast about with physics.
Sure, yeah. And there are also innovations that are just sometimes out of our hands, and you just have to wait for those. And let's say model context protocol. That's already old news here at this point, 6 months ago. But those are game changers that also change the benchmarks. As we continue to be at the bleeding edge of the cutting edge, then these things kind of catch up or add to it. So, there are kind of limiting reagents, using chemistry term, that occur. So, things can only go so fast.
That's a good point, because like what ends up happening is we're like trying to solve our own problem, and turns out actually other teams were trying to solve the same problem, right? And they come out with their papers and stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, we were kind of directionally correct. At least if they're right, then whatever. It makes us feel more confident about what we're doing. But it also gives you a little bit of anxiety, because you're like, okay, we just spent all this time, brain power, and energy trying to figure this out, and these guys just figured it out. But then you realize, well, like, did they figure it out, right? Like, everyone's trying to, everyone's it's babies teaching babies out here. So,
That's right. So it's something that I would definitely be curious about, and I'm sure the audience in general, and again, when I make some videos out of this is going to be one of my favorite clips here. AI agents, I think you're going to love this question. How have they changed since September 2024? So almost a year ago was really when you started, when no one heard about AI agents. That's like one of the best parts about Custom AI Studio, and it's allowed us to be at the bleeding edge. What has changed since then, September till now?
A lot. So the number one thing is the models got better. We were trying to make things work with 3.5, and
ChatGPT 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5, and it was just, looking back, it was just so dumb. It couldn't reason. Like, there was no real reasoning ability, and we were trying to build agents at the time, what we were calling agents, and it was just like really, really difficult. So we had to make them into more deterministic automations. And it wasn't until 4.0 where it kind of unlocked the ability to more reliably build something that's more truly agentic, that is making decisions, that we can give some discretionary power to. And it kind of unlocked a little bit of the agentic, right? And honestly, this is just the path that OpenAI has laid out, and all the others. They're like, okay, we're going to start with the models, and then we're going to go to like reasoning, and then we're going to go to agentic, and then we're going to go to like super intelligence and all that. And so it does make sense where we started working on agentic before it was ready, the models, and then once the models got ready, all of our systems instantly got better. And it's like, it's crazy because you can work so much to try to get something to work with the models that you have, and then they update the model, and all of a sudden it works, and all of the, you just don't need to put all that work in anymore. So that's huge. I'm just glad whenever the model gets updated, it helps us. It's huge, as opposed to like wipes us out. Like that's a huge positive, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of picking up that thread a little bit without using names, because obviously most of our customers like to be a little incognito here, and I appreciate that. Can you walk us through maybe one major customer win or deployment that really tested our platform's capabilities, or one that you're currently working on right now? Like I'm not going to use the name, but I would also accept as a potential answer the law firm that we're working with, because we're really at the cusp there.
Yeah, that one's super exciting. So one that has been working, one that's just probably, it's a smaller quote unquote build, but provides a ton of value for a smaller business, is Piper, is that voice receptionist for a small boutique accounting firm. The amount of money that we're saving him, the effectiveness of it, like that, just hearing him be positive about it when we did our little testimonial video it just feels really, really good, even though it's not this huge thing that we built and like changed, whatever. That feels really good when we get testimonials like that. Now, this law firm one that you're talking about is a larger project, and it is using our Agentic OS framework where we centralize things and we make it truly agentic. And that one has been great because we've been able to figure out a lot of the obstacles that get in the way of these LLMs. Like with ChatGPT, you have the luxury of the chat interface where you give it a prompt, it spits you back something, and you can work with it to get a better output that you need. With Agentic, it's more your single shot prompting. It's passing through a piece of data. It has to get it right in that one instance to move on to the next whatever phase. So it means that the quality of your prompts need to be way better than what you would do in ChatGPT. And yeah, I mean, figuring out that has been just like a huge learning experience. All of the prompting guides that are out there are super helpful. It's like everything came at the right time, right? It's like, okay, now we're building larger systems and we're making things truly agentic, which naturally means we're leaning more on the prompt as opposed to leaning on deterministic kind of node by node workflows. And because we're leaning on the prompt, it means the prompt needs to be just damn good, basically. And it just so happened that there's like 8 guides out there from like OpenAI, Gemini, Anthropic, whatever, that are trying to teach people how to prompt their LLMs. And those have been super helpful. They came at the right time. And what it does is like, okay, the models got better. Now we're better at prompting, which means we can lean more on the prompt, which means we can make the system more agentic by just giving it the tools and giving it the access, giving it the rails to in the sandbox to work within. Yeah, I mean that I'm excited to show that project when we're through with it, really.
Yeah, that's going to be a great project. And going back to the AI voice, synthetic voice agent that we created for the accounting firm, it's just a solo practice essentially. You know, what he had to say is just like honest. Hey, you guys filled up my schedule. I don't know what I could have asked for more. Was essentially the conclusion that he had, and that's exciting. You know, in one sense, you want your testimonials to be like, wow, this is unbelievable. But when you see those testimonials, it's hard to believe that that's true. That that's truly a real customer, because they're always, nothing's that exciting. But he was very just matter of fact, like, hey, this is working for me. I am filling my schedule. And now he's left with an interesting decision right now, which is, do I hire someone else? Does he work even harder? Which I don't think he wants to put more hours, or does he just kind of keep things as it is? And I'm curious where that goes with him. And that's something I'll definitely keep in touch with him about.
Yeah, he was like, do I turn it off some days? You know, because
Right.
he's got all these meetings, especially during tax season. Like people were blowing him up. Yeah, I mean the thing about that one is he had a receptionist who retired, and the testimony of we want is that he feels no change, right? That things are just still continuing to work. And the change that he does feel is that he doesn't have a salary to pay, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he had, I think he had something to say about the receptionist that, it's a human. They weren't doing great, and it was time to retire too. And it was just a great opportunity for him and for us to showcase what we can do. So, those are great feelings. Well, maybe to not as great feelings, but this is part of the process, part of life. And actually it is a good feeling, even if things don't go well, because you always learn from stuff. So were there any bets we made in Q1 or Q2, so H1, either technical, strategic, or wherever you want to take the question, that didn't go as planned? And what did we learn?
That didn't go as planned. Yeah. I mean, I would say at the very beginning, one bet is I would say the community a bit. Like, that's one thing that like I still am want to grow that ecosystem, but it took a little bit of time to figure out what our cadence and strengths were and what we liked to do with that, because it starts to feel like make work when you don't like what you just don't really care for what, and then you put out bad stuff, or like what, because we like to like build stuff internally and put our heads down and work through these like that's what we enjoy doing. And we want to build a community of people who are interested in talking about it, like Chad and JP, who are always in the hangouts. Like that is enjoyable, right? And it feeds into kind of our learning and exploration of this stuff. That was one thing that hopefully in H2 we improve on and build, attract more like-minded people. The other is, the issue is like plans that didn't work out. Everything compounds on itself and gets better, right? Because we were talking about super agents at the beginning with our Airtable instance, but it's not like we went away from super agents necessarily. It's just kind of compounded on itself. It's like, how do we make the super agents better and more seamless? And it just kind of all, so it's like the bets we make are more on timeline, I would say, at like estimating the timeline of things. But what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the community is definitely one that, though we have a lot of subscribers, who's just one of those things that I really was hoping we could grow like exponentially. And though it's been a little bit more linear in its path, it's not had that like exponential look. And maybe that's just a level of expectations that were just never realistic on my part. And then, well, I think like working through things and now it's a success story, but like in Q1, we were using like 3 different systems between HubSpot, Copilot. Now, as the CRO, that was, not easy for me. And, and I kept trying to make things work. My ideas weren't working. And then finally we just kind of said, all right, let's do ClickUp. And for anyone out there, ClickUp is very good. It's not perfect, but I actually really, really like it. It's essentially exactly what you need in CRM. It doesn't have all the crazy bells and whistles of a Salesforce and HubSpot that are kind of doing what their agenda is to kind of take your data, so they can make you fill out all these things. But it wasn't as good for me. And they were tracking things at the company level or weren't tracking things at the company level. But anyway, that's then becomes the success story where we have an all hands meeting on Wednesday. So I had a chance today while I was making my presentation to the group, to kind of consume what has H1 really felt like. So that's why I'm bringing this up, to then say, it's not perfect right now. And we still have RevOps things we want to work on. Siba did a fantastic job. If she's listening, thank you very much. Can't wait to have you back. But, that's become a success story where now we have a CRO dashboard that makes perfect sense. It's not perfect. It's going to get better. We know where things are. I know where to track things. And so a lot of the failures of mine in the beginning that were really glaring failures, I think have become now one of my strengths, or something that I feel really good about, at least. Maybe it's not perfect, but it feels a lot better to me being able to have these numbers at my fingertips.
I agree. Like, there's a lot of operational things that we've just worked through those obstacles. I think we're in a much better spot now. I'm excited for H2, especially from the project standpoint, with Nick to really take the reins on that. That'll be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, for those out there, Nick Straka, who is on here, Nick was promoted to our CTO. So that's what you were referring to at the top of, we elevated Nick. So congratulations to Nick. Very, very well earned, and it's going to be great. So now we're looking to H2, and that's great timing. What are the top 2 to 3 goals of the product and engineering teams during H2?
The Agentic OS is the main thing. So basically what we're going to do, Chad probably knows this already, is we've traditionally been delivering our services through just like N8N, and it works in the background. It works with your existing stack as like the UI piece, right? Like if it's updating a CRM, or if it's reaching out and follow-ups or something, or generating a document, it's like that document will be in Google Drive. The update will go to your actual CRM. Like, when it's taking an inbound call, it'll go to your Google Calendar. What we've been missing, though, is a way to consistently update the instructions, the knowledge base, the prompt, where you don't have to basically ping us and then we go into N8N and like manually kind of like update it, or a new capability is added and we have to go in and like manually update all of that. It just takes too long to add more capabilities to the system where it had been. And what we're trying to build is more of a standardized architecture to where we can make those updates, at least from a prompt perspective. We can make those updates pretty quickly. And there's some R&D components there that we've been working through, and we've reached some major checkpoints. And then I don't know if you guys can hear my little nieces over there, but but there's some R&D, especially on the data side, the ontology layer. There's some R&D needed there, but we pretty much cracked our integration engine, at least the tool calling engine that'll work through the workflows. That's been pretty exciting. H2, I think we have to get this product, this delivery vehicle essentially put together so people can see what's going on with their agents, not only to configure and update, but to see the metrics. How much are they costing? When are errors happening? How can you step in and make changes? I think not a ton of teams have figured out what does it actually look like to work with agents or an agentic system. And that's what we're trying to figure out in H2.
Beautiful. And for those who I say this just for myself, because I didn't know the term ontology until a few months ago, maybe more recent. I don't remember, but it's essentially like a set of concepts or categories in a subject area or domain that shows generally their properties and the relationships between them. How does that relate to AI agents, Devin?
Yeah, it's all context, like in real time. So with ChatGPT, you're copying like a transcript, and maybe you have to add some extra context to it. It's like, this person is this, to give it kind of, you got to give it the setting, right? The frame, but you have to do that manually and all of it. So part of back at the very beginning, when I created like a personal agent and kind of went out with that offer of like, hey, here's a personal agent, and I did the little thing in N8N, I was like, man, like you could do anything really if I added everything to this thing. And like it was very clear that eventually this thing could just do anything if it had the access. But then it also became clear, like, oh wait, a new email comes in, I gotta grab the whole thread, and then I gotta grab the record from Hubstaff, and then I gotta grab something or a HubSpot, and then I gotta grab like a document from Google Drive. And you're trying to figure out like what all does it need to get the output that I need at the end. And it's like that building of the context that was really key. And it was like, well, if I have to think about what context it needs every time I want it to do a single capability, like that's not scalable. There's no way that this thing is going to be agentic. So the solution was, or the thought was just like, let's centralize the data and have it access the data it needs when it needs it. And so that's kind of where that was the onus for all of like, okay, we need to kind of build like a hive mind brain basically for this agentic system, which ontology, it's an ontology layer, which, is pretty common in like the data science space or data engineering space.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do also want to make mention, there's a great background chat going on. I would open it in and engage, just streaming, so everyone would then have to see that. So, but I really enjoyed the background as well. It's been cool. And cool to also see some of the messages that's going back and forth, including Chad. So what's the bottom line then? I'm a CRO of another company. Why is H2 2025 the time to use Custom AI Studio or any AI agent?
Well, it kind of depends on your pain points and your offer. But if your pain point is, I need to scale my SDR, BDR team, that you should be looking at an agentic solution first. If your pain point is like, oh man, they just spend too much time on data entry, like I can only have, each salesperson has a certain amount of capacity and 30% of their time is data entry. It's like, okay, let's talk about an agentic solution instead of like an offshore whatever. And then from a CRO perspective, the insights, like that is a very common pattern. I mean, yesterday we heard it like 2 or 3 times, like being able to understand because there are calls happening and there's various different people making those calls, but the positioning and the messaging matters and the script matters and all of that matters. You as a CRO, as a manager, want to be on top of it. You want to hear what they're saying. You want to be able to teach them and train them and improve the team, but you can't listen to every single call. Even if you played it back, you can't sit there and listen to every call. But an LLM can extract the transcript and it can give you the insights that you're looking for, right? How can you improve the team? Stuff like that, that's using the data to kind of learn what's going on and then make the strategic decisions. Executive CROs are very consistently asking for that stuff, very consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it took the words out of my mouth there. Going back to just kind of general principles here, because we had a long conversation yesterday with specifically Jess Robertson. And we were talking a bit about memory. Where are we with memory with AI agents? How important is memory? Is it important that it gets better? Or maybe you could just walk people through like where we are today, or maybe even where we have been, and where you think we would be going with memory, and if it has any importance or significance for AI agents going forward in H2, and then look into 2026.
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. I don't know. Sometimes memory hurts the system because you want it to be fresh every time, which leads me to believe that memory systems should just be used for like live sessions, and then everything else should just be stored and retrievable later. Because if you think about us, like okay, how many phone numbers do we remember now? Not as many as we did back before we had like contact lists, because those contact lists exist somewhere. So now that brain space can be used for something else. That's what I kind of think is like, okay, let's store the data elsewhere. When it's needed, the thing can go and retrieve it. if it needs to have like memory, the memory's got to be more specific. I think the memory piece would have to be more specific to like a broader guideline type of things, like something that is consistent over time, no matter what it's executing or processing, or live session. If chat session is going to keep up with the memory of the chat session, of course. But I don't know. Memory is kind of an ambiguous term too, because it's like, well, what do you even count as like memory?
Yeah.
For an LLM, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but memory is a very interesting thing just from a biological perspective. So for us to then try to make AI have memory when we don't even understand how our memory works, and like memory is like this very moving thing, and it's very fallible in humans. Like talk to any police officer or anyone, any attorney who does criminal defense or whatever. Like no one remembers anything. I don't know how the Karen Reed trial, if anyone was watching that, it's 4 years later and they're talking about what they were doing that day, So anyway, like when we can't even put our finger on it for ourselves or for others, it's like, how are we going to totally get it in the AI agent space? But your answer was really great.
Well, and what I was telling Jess yesterday is the way memory works with ChatGPT, where it literally is just appending the conversation to the prompt. Like the prompt is just getting stacked, and at a certain point, when the context window is just too packed in, they just start kind of consolidating, synthesizing, and chunking the memory so it's much smaller. And so that's why it loses context over time. It's because over time it's just like not the actual thing, it's just kind of like a synthesized version of what it is, and it's just getting appended to the prompt every time. So it's an interesting thing when you realize like it's really just everything is the prompt for an LLM. Like,
totally. Absolutely. Do you have any advice for, well, everyone on this call specifically is probably a little bit more technically savvy than this, but some people listening, just kind of keeping it basic. Let's just talk about ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, which actually is a newer one that I've enjoyed. I don't know. Have you used Perplexity, Devin, at all?
Yeah.
I like Perplexity. But anyway, how do you recommend best using ChatGPT when it comes to memory? Because like it does lose that thread. Does it mean prompting it more constantly, or what would you advise just a lay person who's using ChatGPT and trying to figure out their way around it?
Yeah, I do a lot of new sessions, new chats. The issue is that there are some things from a current thread that you've been working through that you want to carry over, but I have to manually kind of like copy and build that kind of like context to start the new chat. So it's almost like, okay, I did like a raw chat trying to figure some stuff out. I got to a certain point. Let me kind of synthesize that into context, open a new chat, add that in there, and then continue the conversation. That's typically how I do it. It's pretty manual though.
Yeah. Well, obviously our AI agents will be tailored to our specific client's needs. So, that whole thing, the general question, it really depends on them. For ChatGPT, for me, it's like exactly the same, but I think I've become, just based on my type A personality, pretty like OCD about it, or whatever you want to call it. Where like, if it's really important to me, I'm not talking about like whatever, like it's really important, I even then will copy and paste the original prompt and say, remember you did this and you screwed it up. Remember that? Remember. Okay, this is how we're going to do it better this time. And I try not to be too mean to it, because eventually they're going to be our overlords, as we all know. But, jokes aside, like it really helps it then move through. And I generally, depending on it, get to where I need to be.
Yeah, that does work. That is a good method.
One little thing it actually just came to mind, and then, I want to look towards 2026 here and we'll wrap it up. But just something that I've really enjoyed, and, I get questions about this just from friends and stuff. Like, how do you make great images using generative AI? What I've been doing recently is use Claude, I use ChatGPT. I usually just use the most recent version of ChatGPT, but whatever. Sometimes O3 has some benefits and yada, yada, yada. But anyway, I will say, this is what this is my newsletter title. And actually, sometimes I'll even say, here's the entire newsletter. I'll copy and paste it. describe in exquisite detail, like I am a major in art or whatever, PhD in art. What do you want my cover to look like? And it will spit out exactly what someone like your sister, we could keep going back to your sister, and the conversations you have, who is an art major, if I recall, and obviously has concerns or whatever about AI and replacement. But having that level of expertise, she could just do this on her own. But ChatGPT does it for me, and then I put it into Canva, and it usually gives me exactly what I want based on the description. So anyway, just wanted to get that out there for anyone who has those questions. But this won't be forever also. I think as these things get more sophisticated as we move towards 2026, and this is my lame attempt at making a transition to 2026, these things are going to change. So, okay, Devin, we're in 2026. What bold predictions? Not like whatever predictions, but the bolder the better. What bold predictions do you have for 2026?
Mm-hmm. If GPT-5 comes out this summer like it's supposed to,
right,
I think 26, I said this in 24 about 25, but I think 26 is the year where we start to see tons of case studies, tons of major transformations in business operations, tons of real success with these systems. And I think that's just going to lead to a flood of activity trying to get them onboarded. I think a lot of startups will get a lot of traction and success. And then whether it's 27, 28, there'll be like a consolidation event where the large players start to buy up all of those startups. And then they'll kind of dominate for a minute. And then eventually, startups will pop up again and they'll offer niche offerings where like this specific use case is better than the large player because the large player has to cater to everybody. Just like the same thing as kind of like we went through with SaaS. But yeah, I think 26 will be the year of agentic success, basically.
Yeah. And that's really cool you said that. A lot of what I was thinking about 2026 is more autonomy, but there's going to be human in the loop. Do you see, do you agree with that? Like, or is there going to be so there's still going to be human in the loop for the foreseeable future. And I think that includes January 1st, 2026, if that's how we're keeping it simple. But maybe as we get into 2027, even beyond, we might see much, much more autonomy. And within 2026, we will. Another thought is exactly what you said, which is, okay, for the people who have been using AI agents, now the data is going to come out and it's going to be much more reliable and it's going to be convincing. Actually, read my newsletter. I have a table. I actually start out with a table of what are things we learned from H1 of 2025, just by the numbers, like just statistics. And what does that tell us trend-wise for H2? And for people who are using AI agents in certain settings, it's not for everything, there are some really cool numbers. There are some numbers that give you pause, and that's important, and I shared those. But most of the numbers in that, look, it's probably because I'm searching in my own way and looking for what I want, but most of the numbers that are coming out are showing the use has gone up significantly, but that's not the cooler part. It's the ROI stuff that, check out the newsletter. There's some serious ROI. And by 2026, then we'll have a whole 2025 of agent data to work off of. I think at that point, it will be almost a no-brainer that everyone in business is going to say, okay, well, I don't know, I can't resist it any further. That's going to happen at some point to everyone. It's not the boldest of predictions either. Again, I'll say it a million times. If we call it an AI agent, we call it Agentic OS, we call it Ross, Devin, whatever you want to call it. The automations using AI to decrease bottlenecks, increase efficiency, and make people more productive through their workflows through automation. That's the future. So
yeah.
All right.
I agree. Well said.
I appreciate that. Let's see what. Well, I think I probably only have one more question, and we'll open it up, or we'll call it quits early because I think I got what I really needed out of you, Devin. And this is all about me anyway. I don't care about the person. I'm kidding, guys. Hope everyone got something out of it too. So let's say it's a year from now. So it's July 2026. What would make Devin Kearns smile ear to ear about what Custom AI Studio has achieved, or the general AI agent world? What would be like, you could stay realistic, but what would really be like, wow, I feel this is just exactly where I knew it was going, and this is making me really happy right now?
Yeah, so they're like the best, like the thing that would make me smile ear to ear, truly would be like if we came out with a paper or some kind of study or experiment that we've done, that the industry itself now takes and applies to theirs because it's become some kind of standard or some kind of thing that is like, oh, okay, yeah, well, they figured out this like huge problem that we're all facing. Like, now let's apply. That would be awesome if we made that kind of impact by 26. The second tier stuff is business stuff, right? Like if we get amazing logos, right, that have really good meaty problems for us to solve, that we can solve, that we do solve, and we can shout them from the rooftops that, hey, we solved this thing. Like that would be fantastic, right? So like working with like really nice logos, with good contracts at play, and we have like a really good product that's providing ROI, and we can prove that. That would be huge. That product itself or whatever we're providing, if there's anything kind of like that we built that is unique and can provide impact to the space, and something that we've done that nobody else is doing, or something that we figured out that others were trying to figure out, they didn't quite do it, or something in along those lines, like that would be awesome. Not necessary, but that would be awesome.
What I really love most about your answer, and I'll toot your own horn here, Devin, is, I think as a CEO, it would, and this is always in everyone's head, what's the actual bottom line? And as a CRO, that's important to me too. But what you focused on, and I think that's the overall focus of Custom AI Studio, is, okay, we know the bottom line is going to follow if we solve the appropriate problems, and we do it the right way, and we do it honestly and ethically. And I think that's what Custom AI Studio is all about. And without, any prompting, I mean, your answer revolved around that central idea of us helping businesses achieve goals. And then we know the rest will work out from there. And those big logos will come and all that. And that's, those are exciting. But the most exciting part for me, and I share it with you, is our ability to change the landscape for the better, make businesses reach their goals and reach their highest potential as soon as possible and as efficiently as possible. That's best for society. The world works better when that's happening. I also hope AI will also, and this is outside of our scope, and I'm just going to stand on my little ivory tower here, or my soapbox for a second. It would be great also, and it should, for those organizations using AI to help out with humanitarian problems, with food aid problems, and trying to maximize where food is going around the world, given all the issues around the world. So, that kind of stuff really drives me, wakes me up in the morning, and gets me excited. And I know that's not 100% what we're doing. However, I did meet with someone from, he's from Rotterdam today. Actually, you might know him. I CC'd you on the email, so you'll probably see it at some point, Devin. You've spoken to him in the past. He's an importer exporter, and his goal, I literally said, well, what are you guys trying to do? I want to cure world hunger using AI. So like literally that's front of mind for me. And it's a project that we're going to start on a blueprint. I'm pretty sure we're going to move forward with him. He seems very excited. So that just happened a couple hours ago. So that's the kind of stuff that definitely wakes me up.
Sweet. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's inevitable. It's like, oh, this stuff's going to happen. Like, it'd be awesome if we played a part, right? You look back in the book and it's like we have a little, ideally a chapter, but right. Like even a sentence or a reference would be fantastic, that we were part of this era. It's about legacy, right? Reputation.
Totally. Yeah. What else are we, I guess, other than trying to leave a lasting impression on things here? Well, we'll take it offline, but I'm excited to talk more about your ideas about a white paper. I think that would be the coolest thing. And I think of, any company, we're driven to do it the right way. And we're going to have the data to do it too. So I'm excited about that. Yeah. So anyway, Devin, any last second thoughts on where we've been, where we're going 2026, or we can open up for a couple questions. And if no questions come, great. 15 minutes back in everyone's day. It's been a great session as far as I'm concerned.
No thoughts right now. Let's open it up.
yeah, any questions? No pressure by anyone. But if anyone has any questions, definitely now's a great time.
Yeah. Or just thoughts.
Or thoughts.
Yeah. You're gonna join right now.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ross, for bringing that up regarding the hunger part, like resolving. Those are like really big issues, and I'm really glad that people are looking into that space and using AI probably for achieving that. I mean, it's always good to use or put it to the good use.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I'm really appreciative that you brought that up, Pratik. And with that said, we'll get you on the project when it comes in, so that you can help out, especially since you're passionate about it. We'll make sure that you're the first one on it. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Surely glad. Yeah.
Amar. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and as per like the details that Devin mentioned regarding custom AI and working on like exciting projects, I mean, it's surely exciting to work on them and contribute whatever we can. And as he said, not even if not a chapter, at least a sentence in the book of AI whenever it is written down. Yeah, that's a great vision, Devin.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, well put. And it only happens with a team effort, with a team like Pratik and other Pratik who's also on this call, both Pratiks, and everyone who's part of the organization. That's a real shout out. And we're going to be able to celebrate these achievements this Wednesday when we have our group all hands meeting. That's going to be fun.
I mean, those are the people, those are the folks we attract, are like, guys who want to, or girls who want to like get after it and figure it out. And like, it's not necessarily about the money or like what time of the day you got to work or what you got to do. It's just like being a part of it. So, yeah. Amar, did you have something?
Hey, Devin, Ross, thanks. Great discussion. Super interesting, where you're taking the company and what you're learning and I love the fact that you're sharing and you're so open. I think, again, speaks to the great culture that you're building as well within the organization. So I work at a 6,000 person, systems integrator. We work, with enterprises, and, for me, it's interesting in the sense that, on the other end of the scale, you've got, the small companies that are coming to Custom AI Studio and getting amazing results, with relatively inexpensive investments, great ROI. It's great. I think I've got a pharmaceutical client that is right now we're going through an RFP for an agentic platform for generating hypotheses for labs, for scientists to help, with drug discovery, for example. I have no idea how successful this project is, because the idea of induction and abduction in terms of, generating new ideas coming out of LLMs may be limited. So I'm really curious. I mean, for me, it was interesting just learning about, what you're experiencing, what your take is on things like memory and context, because we're going to face those issues. We're going to be hitting biological databases for, let's say the long-term memory, the real data, stuff like that. The context, the prompt, going to be super important in trying to, problem solve in this area. So it's not just small companies, big companies as well. I think every single CEO is saying to their teams, is like, what are we going to do about agentic? It's happening everywhere. So I thought it'd be useful just to share that view. I'm really, really curious because I feel, when you're working at a big company, we're far less agile than you guys, for example. And interestingly, you're going through the process of building a company. You recognize you've got to build the processes, to sustain the company, etc. Those are the same problems everyone faces. You got to scale at some point, and make it efficient. But I think the thing is that as a company itself, you're thinking AI first. We're not. We still have old school thinking, finance, recruitment. It's still, we have SDRs. And they keep saying, let's hire more SDRs. It's like, guys, that era is, that's changing. We need to think differently, and I think that's, in a sense, companies like yours have a huge advantage, because you can scale, with minimal effort around these areas. So yeah, I think just comments and observations from my side, not really questions as such. So thank you.
Yeah,
That's really
No, it's good.
wonderful. Really,
Go ahead,
really
Ross.
wonderful you brought that up. Yeah, sorry, Devin. You made me think, and it got me excited. First of all, are you in London? I see
I'm in Madrid, in Spain. Actually,
Okay.
I am British, but I have the luck of having a Spanish wife.
Awesome.
So we live in Madrid. Yeah.
Oh, I'm jealous. I'm in New York City. Yeah, I wish I was overseas with you. But you made me think of one of the things with another shameless plug for my newsletter. But you brought up that there are a lot of issues that we're going to have to deal with, and that's one of the things in like kind of my last section of what to expect in 2026. There are some serious issues out there about AI. Do we give them citizenship? But that's not as ridiculous as it sounds. In 2017, Saudi Arabia gave a humanoid AI citizenship. It was completely publicity and all that, but it has been done. There's a law in, I think it's North Dakota, that gives way, that was passed in 2022, that gives way to citizenship for AI. And people are taking that to the next level and seeing if they can actually even run an entire legal department or an entire law firm using an AI agent and having that person actually have legal citizenship. So there is respect, and that always goes back to what Devin, you often says, like how do you dictate responsibility when it's AI? This is our attempt at it, but it's kind of a ridiculous concept, and kind of, I don't know, maybe belittles us all as humans. That's all you need for citizenship is you're just some AI. But these are real issues that people are actually really talking about. Brooklyn Law, which is right down the road from me, did an entire study about using AI as an attorney and what that would look like. And it's fascinating. And I talk all about it. So it's not as ridiculous as it sounds. It's something that actually somehow we're gonna have to deal with. And it's just another problem to have to deal with and another debate amongst us in society.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm anti-AI citizenship, humanoid robot citizenship of any kind.
Me too.
That is ridiculous to me.
It's interesting. My wife works in intellectual property in TV and broadcast production, and they're having the same discussion about who has the rights. Is it the AI? Is it is it the company? Is it the individual? Who wrote the prompt? So yeah, it's a fascinating area for sure.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well said. And you're at the front lines with your wife there. It's really fascinating stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, she's going to be busy. This IP, data, ownership, like, man, it's so ambiguous right now how to handle those problems. That's crazy.
Yeah, and we have clients who have written into contracts, AI clauses now, specifically governing how we use AI within our business for the services we deliver to them, but also, the use of approved tools. Then training, we have to train our folks in understanding the implications of using AI, the outputs that might be, they might, impinge intellectual property because of the training, the underlying data of these models. So yeah, it's some enterprises are treading very carefully. Others are just jumping straight in and figuring out, okay, what can we learn from this? Like this pharmaceutical, I'm absolutely fascinated by it. Being a regulated company, but they have they've got an experimental mindset because they're in that world. But they're not. I think they continue to grow their investment. I think that there was talk of investments kind of being pulled back around POCs and that kind of thing. I'm not sure that's true. I think people are still investing. So yeah,
well, I think
interesting.
The thing that's missing is traceability and observability of the outputs. So how do you prove that the output, where did it get the data from, essentially? Yeah.
And this talks to the deterministic point that you mentioned earlier. Exactly in the pharmaceutical RFP we're doing, they specifically mentioned deterministic outputs from an agent, and you're like, hang on a second. How can we, how do we do this? How can we repeat, how can we make it deterministic or idempotent or whatever? So, I think, they've got some learnings to go through, because we've got question marks in our head about, can we actually build this for them or not?
Yeah.
Or it even goes beyond that. When you even think about the actual deployment itself, you look at what Grok did on the 8th of July,
Right.
where there's absolutely, I mean, straight from a deployment perspective, straight into production. I mean, what kind of checking, validation, guardrails were in place there? I mean, that kind of stuff. And you want to give citizenship to a large language model that's going to do stuff like that. That's crazy.
Can you tell us briefly what happened on the 8th?
So basically, Grok went
became a Nazi, right?
Yeah, anti-Semitic comments and statements, and talking about Hitler doing, if you want to sort out problems in the world, then Hitler's the best person to sort out some of the issues, crazy stuff.
That's actually insane.
I mean, they shut it down relatively quickly, but it was just some guardrails that were loosened, and it was crazy. So basically, saying you can look at the content that's on X, and if there's sufficient content out there that has got sufficient traction, then you can basically accept that as being fact, and you can present that back to anyone who is asking for a question or looking for research, and respond using this as some of the data that you can show up as evidence or factual data to use. Whereas obviously it's not.
Yeah. I mentioned the Cloudflare update on our last session, right, Chad? Where they basically host 20% of the internet, like the sites on the internet, and they're now charging LLM scrapers, like they're basically blocking it from any sites that they're hosting. Like you're not allowed to scrape the data unless you pay, I think, essentially. Which is
remember that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's going to happen more and more. I mean, people are going to realize the data is the key and that's the value. And so they're going to start protecting it.
Everyone becomes a broker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we need Web3 to get figured out. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Chad, for that. Yeah. The Grok thing was definitely very concerning. I had read about it the other day, and I don't know where it all comes from, but they did take it down. So hopefully they're rectifying the situation.
Yeah, but it's how much, I almost just want a raw model just to see what a raw, no guardrails model is, and then give me the ability to put guardrails on it, or like maybe prepackage the guardrails, and I can choose how raw I want it. Just the fact that it's like, it's coming out with Hitler. It's like, yeah, okay, and everyone hates Hitler, right? Like that's like a bar, like that's one of those things that all of society is like, yeah, we don't really talk about that. But what if that changes over time, right? And what if it's other things besides Hitler, where it's like very stark, but it's something a little bit more gray, like abortion or any kind of political thing that's extremely, there's one side or another, and both sides are extreme about their beliefs on it. You're going to put the guardrail on that one side is correct and the other side's not, or it starts to get overly complicated in some ways. It's like when Europe tries to limit some of your speech, it's like you're going to start limiting people's speech. I don't know. It's the thought police is my thought when it comes to that.
Well said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said.
No, I mean, I think you're right. Like, it's a gray area of free speech in general. Like, we deal with this on a daily basis, and it's been coming up, I think, a little bit more recently. I don't know the factors why. I'm not going to go there, but it seems to be a little bit more present over the last decade or so, like pushing where free speech goes. And I mean, it's a serious debate. I wish I had the answers.
Yeah, I wish we did. It's harder now because it's not like speech out of somebody's mouth into somebody's ears. It's speech into a software platform that's operating by various algorithms and being shown to people who might engage with it. And like, it's that middleman layer that's the issue. And LLMs are fundamentally a middleman layer between human-to-human communication, but it's a black box. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough problem.
It is.
I gave a talk on Tuesday to a group of retirees. There were 100 people at a community, University of the Third Age. It's a social community, and quite a few of them had never used AI before, and they were trying to work out whether this is something that they can trust or not. They're chatting to it, and basically I use the analogy of WhatsApp or Telegram, and you can talk to it, and it's someone who can advise you or you can have conversations with. And yesterday, after the talk, and I said, yes, you can trust, but verify, etc. And yesterday I had a conversation with ChatGPT, and I'm on the pro version. And I gave it feedback on a run that I had, and I said, just bank that and tell me what my recent runs were. And it said on Thursday the 8th of July, and I said, Thursday the 8th of July, that's not today's date. And it replied and it said, sorry, Thursday the 11th of July. And I said, what do you mean? And it said, oh, sorry, you're right, Thursday the 8th of July. And I went, FFS, today's date is Thursday the 10th of July. But I mean, literally, how can it get that wrong, ping pong backwards and forwards, completely wrong on ChatGPT 3.0 pro version? And 2 days ago, I was telling these octogenarians, these 70-year-olds that it's okay, it's getting to the point where it doesn't hallucinate so badly anymore and you can use it. I felt like a real idiot, So it's not out of the woods yet. We really have to. There's a lot to be done still.
There's a lot to be done. Yeah. The dates is like always an issue.
And it's mind blowing that it is. What disturbed me, and then and it's so small. Last year, when the New York Mets baseball team made the playoffs, I asked, what are their chances now, like adjusted to win the World Series versus like what it was at the beginning of the year? And it simply said the Mets didn't make the playoffs. Whatever. Okay, I'll give it the okay. But it's also, I mean, that it doesn't know the date. That's like the basic thing. The Mets thing is just a thing of like, I don't know. You could just very easily scour the internet and you'd figure that out. But with all that said, it is 1:00 here Eastern. Devin, I know you have other stuff, and everyone else. Chad, everyone, Amar, thank you so much for joining. Brian, Pervin, Nick, good seeing you. Hope it's not too late there, Nick. But thank you everyone for joining. This was a really great session. I personally really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did as well. And I really appreciate also the comments and the questions or the thoughts at the end by everyone who's here. Really made it that much more special. So thank you for joining.
Yeah, this was a fun one, guys. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Have a great weekend for everyone.